This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Andrew and enter promo code Andrew at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
What the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by the returning Paul Thurrott. And you know what? This week, you are not really moving much, huh?
Yeah, a little tired.
A little tired.
I'm so tired I can't even blink.
Paul's having some issues here. You are on that Intel NUC. That little box,
I assume
right?
we're blaming this. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
I assume it's the Intel NUC. I would assume that that's the problem, right?
I think so, because this happened last time, and I'm just going off memory here, so it's not perfect. But you try to do the right thing, right? You go to the Intel site, you get the automated driver utility, it examines your system, downloads exactly the drivers you need. Why wouldn't I want this?
And why would they deceive you in any way?
Yep. And so this was fine before I did that, and I was surprised. There was a list of. I shouldn't have been surprised. This is exactly what happened last time. There was a list of easily 11 or 12 driver updates. I thought, you know what? That's the right thing to do. You install the updates. Even though I did this before and this happened before. So I got to think about this now because, it can't be like this every day.
When you had this problem a couple weeks ago, was it on the same machine?
Yeah.
Oh, it was. Okay. So is this your everyday computer now?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Why? Just why?
Because it's fine. I mean, aside from this issue, it's great. I mean, it works great, or it has. I mean, so far.
Yeah. So it is interesting. I mean, these issues are interesting because we have a lot of people that do shows for us, and I've come to learn about all these weird USB bus issues and handoff issues between 1080p, 720p and 1080p, and audio issues, with certain types of microphones and USB ports. You really start picking up on all these, bugs that you see day to day, and you realize, in 2016, this is a simple thing, right? You got a fast enough computer, you plug in the webcam, and it should work.
Well, okay. I mean, yes. By the way, yes, it should absolutely work. And I guess the two things that go off the top of my head here are, one, we do the show on a laptop. It works fine on a laptop. This is a laptop class hardware device, There's no reason it shouldn't work. Why is it not working? I don't know. And then the other thing is, I keep going back to this Intel thing. I really am a little freaked out by the Skylake stuff. And I think, going against common sense or my own better judgment, when I bought this thing, I specifically bought the Skylake version.
Because it's the latest and the greatest, yeah.
Yep. Well, the latest, right? Even though I could have gotten a Haswell version, or whatever the previous one was, Broadwell or whatever. I could have gotten a previous gen Intel chip, and I could have gotten the i7. And I was like, I want Skylake. Like a check. I want the new one.
I had this debacle a couple of years, about, what was it, November, December, when I was building that new production machine where I ordered Skylake, and then I realized about all these issues with it, so I returned it in 2 days. I mean, within 2 days, I realized all the problems that Skylake had, and I just got rid of it.
Yeah, I would do this one over again. It's a desktop computer, so power management, whatever Skylake brings to the table is not particularly interesting for this device. It really just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. I think it's a cool device. I could do with about 2 more USB ports. I wish there was more USB, and I don't know if that's a hardware specific to this machine where it's like a single bus and it's getting overloaded. But I actually have one port free, and one of the ports is just a dongle for the mouse and the keyboard. It's not like I'm killing the thing. I don't know.
I don't think it requires a lot to kill it. I mean, as soon as you start doing some sort of video with a webcam, and you would imagine that it knows, people use People use webcams nowadays. There's something called Skype.
No, but you know what? Okay, so there's a limitation in Skype. We were talking before the show where you can't say I want to force 720p or 640p or whatever. Okay,
and I've had this
But why-
conversation with them many, many times that there should be some sort of,
okay, but
setting.
the thing is, let's say that switch existed. Are you telling me that this system is so precarious that one change is the difference between video being frozen and video just working? I mean, I'm not sure I would trust the reliability of that anyway.
Yeah.
And what if it were it might just be the resolution switch that does it for some reason. There's something buggy about it switching resolutions.
Or I mean, here's another thing, okay? A lot of people think like, well, if you're having a problem, why don't you just go into the Logitech settings and switch it to a lower resolution, right? That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it doesn't, because that does nothing.
I don't have that capability.
That toggle to be able to which if you had the drivers in, you probably could, right? But even
I guess on this particular, I installed the software before and it's looking for that exact switch, and I didn't see it.
There's no reason to look for it because it doesn't work. It only works for the Logitech software, not outside. So Skype overrides all of that. It doesn't matter what you set it to for the resolution.
I mean, it'd almost be worth getting a. Well, no, it wouldn't, because I still just don't trust the thing, right? So I was going to say I could get a non-HD camera if such a thing exists in this world.
There is. I mean,
it must exist. I don't know, but the thing is, again, if that's how precarious this is, that doesn't solve the problem, right?
No.
So if I go back and I reinstall this system yet again, which I'm prepared to do, boy, do I not want to do that tonight. Anyway, if I do that, I still face this situation where if I use the Windows 10 drivers, I'm all set. But if I use Intel's driver installer, I'm screwed. That doesn't really solve the problem, right?
No.
I mean, at some point, doesn't it seem like they would update them to they come from Intel, they must. I mean, it seems like at some point, the drivers that are causing the problem would be delivered by Windows 10.
Try uninstalling the drivers, says someone in the chat room. But it was...
Yeah.
I mean, that's another possibility.
Yeah, what a freaking disaster that is, though.
Yeah, we always talk about like easy computing and smart computing and how these devices are becoming appliances. And it's supposed to get easier. But in reality, it only gets harder with these issues. I have a problem on my Mac, and this is something that just started happening about a week and a half ago. I just bought this thing about a month ago, a little over a month ago, and at random times, the entire computer locks up, totally freezes. Totally freezes, and the OS there's a crash. I think it's a kernel panic, and it just crashes because you know how the new trackpads have that like double click now? What do they call it? The new trackpads? What's the name for them?
Yeah, Apple ones, Touch 3D
Force Touch or Touch 3D, whatever it is. So it's like this double click almost. So if you push harder, it clicks again. There's no click at all on this thing. So it loses all clicking. So I know the thing is dead. So I have to unplug it from the power and then hold the power button down and start again. This shouldn't happen, in my opinion. Like these are bizarre things that happen in computing that really shouldn't happen. You should not be having USB bus issues on an i7.
I know it's crazy, like on a brand new computer. And again, I'd have to go back and look what's back. Obviously, I have the USB based, mic converter, hardware, whatever that thing's called. I have the camera, I have the mouse and keyboard, and I think that's it. I'm not sure what else is plugged in back there. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
But that was 3 things. I don't know. There's one other thing. I don't know. But it's not like it's not like one of those jury rig things with splitters and stuff, and I've got all kinds of stuff hanging off the back of it.
I'm imagining,
even if it was mean, it should work.
I imagine that you have like a dongle connected to a dongle connected to like a powered USB hub connected to a not powered USB hub, and then they're like, oh, okay, that's why I'm having this problem, Because you see that every now and then. We have those issues all the time. Somebody calls in, their video is totally screwed up, and you ask them, like, are you connected to a splitter or something? Like, no. Well, are you connected to anything? They go, yeah, I'm connected to a 50-foot USB cable, extender.
Right.
So
and it's nicely crimped.
Yeah, it's nicely crimped. It's folded about 6 times.
Yeah, so it can make the corner.
Yeah, of course. And then there's like a stapler going through it.
Yep.
We have a lot to talk about. This was
Okay.
not on the notes, but we do have a lot to talk about. Before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor, and of course, that's Casper. Guys, I've been using a Casper mattress since last January, so over a year now. And the reason, when I first heard about this, it comes in a box. It's folded up. You don't have the hassle of having it delivered. It's shipped via UPS. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll put it in my guest room. I didn't put it in my guest room, thank God, because my mattress was killing my back. I had a very expensive name brand mattress that was terrible, terrible, terrible. It was totally way too soft for me. It was one of those plush top, crazy expensive mattresses. And I finally said, you know what? I'm sick of this thing. I got rid of it. I put the Casper down, and holy cow, it has been night and day. Because I could actually sleep during the night, and I don't have to sleep during the day on the couch. I would actually get up and sleep on the couch because this mattress was so terrible. They specialize in premium mattresses at a fraction of the cost. And here's a phenomenal deal for you guys. If you go to Casper.com/Andrew and enter in promo code Andrew at checkout, you get an additional $50 off your purchase. You save an additional $50 as one of our audience members. So some of the prices here, you got $500 for a queen, for a twin, $950 for a king size mattress. Their promotions are great. Here's the other kicker: free shipping, painless return, so you don't have to go through this whole song and dance to return this thing, and you get a 100-day period to sleep on this thing. So you don't have to just go to, you don't have to go to a showroom and lie down on it and guess if it's going to work for you. You get 100 nights on this thing. All the Casper mattresses are also made in the USA. Casper.com/Andrew. Enter in promo code Andrew and get an additional $50 off as one of our members, audience members. I want to thank Casper. Also, terms and conditions do apply. I want to thank Casper for supporting What the Tech, and of course for supporting the GFQ network. I cannot tell you how many people have gone and purchased a Casper mattress due to their show, which I love hearing that. A lot of family members also. A lot of our audience. I get emails all the time telling me, I had, a couple herniated discs in my back and I couldn't sleep on this mattress. And, I like it too firm. My wife likes it soft. So I ended up getting a Casper and giving it a shot, and it's perfect. They call it the Goldilocks standard because it's just right for everybody. Casper.com/Andrew. I want to thank Casper for supporting the show. So, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Where do we begin today?
Well, it's up to you.
You know what? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Windows 10 and the upgrade. The free upgrade is ending soon, and a lot of people are freaking out over this. And I'm blown away by this concept. Okay, so I messaged Paul earlier this week, and we were talking about. I go, did I miss something? Like, did something change with the Microsoft stuff? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, with the Windows 10 update, did anything change with the terms of the length of the update? You go, no, nothing changed. I go, then why is everybody freaking out that this thing is going to go away, and they want to know what's going to happen when it goes away? Like, do you still get an update when it goes away after July? What is it, 27th?
Yeah,
whatever the date is.
Yeah.
So what happens after July 29th, Paul?
Nothing. I mean, think of it this way. It doesn't actually matter how you obtained Windows 10, right?
Okay.
The July 29th date doesn't mean anything to you if you already did it.
If you
already have it.
If you already have
it. In other words, if you got it for free, if you paid for it, if you got it with a new PC, it doesn't matter. Nothing changes on July 29th.
Yes.
Okay. If you did do the free upgrade and it's July 29th or later, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I want to clean install my Windows 10 on this computer I previously already installed it on, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's going to work. There's no problem. Okay. You own it. Yeah. It wasn't free for the year. It's free.
It's free. It's yours.
You obtain it for free during that first year, but you get it. It's yours. There's no gotcha or trick or whatever. There's an interesting related case to this like what's the audience for people who want the free update, haven't gotten it yet, and this July date's going to be a problem for them for some reason. Like, who are these people?
But those are the people that are freaking out. Like my brother, for example. My brother, he's still on Windows 8 not 8.1, 8. Okay.
Yeah.
He never wants to update anything. He's on Windows 8. He doesn't want to. He hasn't done 8.1. And now all of a sudden, one of his coworkers mentioned something about Windows 10, and now he's freaking out. And he goes, "Oh my! Do I do this update?" I go, "If you're on Windows 8, absolutely. If he was on Windows 7, I would say maybe not. Okay, you decide. He's on Windows 8. Do the freaking update and get it over with." He's freaking out over this update, and then he tells me, "Well, what if I don't do it by July 29th? What happens then?" Well, it goes away. It's no longer free.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's an idea. I mean, obviously this isn't going to help a lot of people because it's a fairly technical process, and people who are fairly technical have probably already done this. But if you're worried about this date and you're not sure if your computer's going to be ready and you don't know how it's going to turn out, and yada yada yada, one thing you could try to do is use the software built into Windows to resize the disk and make a second partition using the disk management utility
and install it on that,
and do a dual boot install of Windows 10.
Absolutely. You know what? That's how I did it on two of my machines.
There are some complexities to that. Later you're probably going to want to wipe that out. You're probably going to want to get rid of the dual boot menu. You're going to want to, this all, yes.
The way that I did mine, not on my main production machine, but on my Skype machines, because they're older machines. They're quad core AMDs and 6-core AMDs from a couple years ago. I didn't partition a drive. I didn't format. What I did, I bought a brand new hard drive, bought a brand new 256 SSD, put it in there, did the update, install Windows. I had a clone drive, just cloned it over to that one, and then I updated that one to Windows 10.
Yeah.
Once I saw everything was fine, took the other hard drive out and threw it away.
I do think there are some possible areas of stupidity for the near future. Microsoft has this kind of database up in the cloud somewhere that it lists all of the computers that are, valid to activate Windows 10 against. The theory here being that if you upgrade or install Windows 10 on a PC and activate it before the July 29th date, you should be good to go for the future forever.
Okay, so can I...
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question on that, okay?
Sure.
So Microsoft has some server in the cloud where it knows the machines that upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10, okay? Let's say this is a scenario. So if I get a new, but there's no key for Windows 10.
Right. Technically there kind of is, but go, yeah.
Technically there kind of is, but okay. If I want to install, I think the perfect scenario would be hey, listen, once you install Windows 10, you own Windows 10 now. This is yours. So if your hard drive goes bad and you don't have
Windows 10 on that computer,
on that computer specifically.
Yeah, remember the computer's the license is for that computer. It's not something you own personally. If you were to give the computer away or sell it, that person then owns that license, or it's still with the computer, right? In other words, what you're asking is if you could change your hard drive. No, keep everything. Well, no. All the normal stuff that people do is still okay. None of that really changes. And so, using some form of magic, there are some changes to the hardware configuration that could trigger a reactivation of the OS.
It happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So that hasn't changed between Windows 7, 8, and 10. The same types of things could cause reactivation issues. Some will be worse than others. And if it's really, like a motherboard type thing, you might have to do a phone activation.
Yeah.
And again, that just kind of, is a conversation you have with the support rep where you say, look, I own this thing. I did this. It's still the same computer. I had to change the motherboard, and they usually just activate it. No problem.
I know we're talking about Windows, but do you have my video right now?
I do.
Do you see what's happening to my eye? This one?
No, actually, it's funny. The video you're sending is really blurry.
Yeah, of course it is. And my eye is swelling up as we speak.
Is it?
You guys see
it's because we're talking. It's because you're using a Mac.
Yeah, look at this eye. It's shrinking as we're talking.
It's clenching up because it's past Tuesday.
Do you see this? Do you guys see it? I'm noticing it in the camera. It's like my eye is shutting. Well, this will be an interesting show. I'll look like Nosferatu, the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
By the time this thing's over.
Yeah, Notre Dame, and you're just a mime. You're not even moving. So What? Okay, so here's my question:
Mhm.
Does Microsoft do you see Microsoft saying like, "Hey, July 29th's here, but no worry, we're extending it by another month"?
So I don't know. I mean, I've always felt that they should just continue this program. Like, there's no reason not to. So if there are X number of computers out there in the world that can be upgraded to Windows 10, it's not 1.5 million, right? I mean, it's maybe half that, some number, whatever it might be. Um, the people that want to do that have, by and large, already done it, right?
Yeah.
So the arguments against keeping Windows 10 free include such things as, well, what about the PC makers? People aren't buying PCs because they can get Windows 10 for free. I actually think people aren't buying PCs because people aren't buying PCs. But that said, I mean, you could make this argument that, Microsoft could ease things on PC makers a bit by charging for Windows 10, and thus people might be more inclined to buy a PC.
Yeah.
Maybe, but again, because most people who have gone or would have upgraded have already upgraded, keeping this promotional offer going, I don't think really hurts PC makers
I
because
don't think so
there's
either,
no
no.
large body of potential upgradable PCs sitting out there waiting to be upgraded.
I don't think. Do you?
know?
Well, this is a great question. Do you think people are now saying, "Oh, back to school's coming, but screw that. I'm not going to buy my kid a computer. I could just install Windows 10 on that thing."
Oh,
Nobody.
maybe, some people, maybe. I mean,
I don't know. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Either.
but you know who's doing that? It's the same people that are upgrading to to an SSD or upgrading the RAM on their computer. This is a very small group
Yeah.
of people that are still doing that.
I mean, look, again, I don't think this is a big number, but there are out in the world X number of Windows 7 and Windows 8X product keys. Right now, all of those will activate a Windows 10 install for free. So July 29th, July 3rd, whatever the date is, that ends. Okay, I guess you could make that argument there, but I think there's enough gray area here where it's kind of goodwill toward the community of people who would be disadvantaged by this. The lack of any real harm to PC makers. Why just keep it open? Who knows? There could be all kinds of reasons, legal reasons, financial reasons related to the way that they record, profits and revenues and so forth. They really haven't clearly ever stated why they're doing it. But they've done this kind of thing in the past. Remember during the Windows 7 days, they had that family pack, which was a great deal. I think it was $150. Got 3 licenses to the OS. Really nice. I remember the first time they did that one Christmas and it went gangbusters. And I said, they're never going to get rid of this. And they got rid of it. And they brought it back, I think, the next Christmas. And I said, okay, this time they learned they got rid of it. So I guess my gut feeling is they probably do get rid of it. And it's going to be for some reason that you and I don't understand. But
Yeah.
I honestly, either way, I don't see it having a huge impact.
I mean, I think the biggest question here is what happens after Windows 10. What happens with the next version of Windows? And
there's
the following
no next version.
It's one Windows. Yeah, it's one Windows. But
yeah,
I'm just trying to for example, like you or me, right? Like we could use a computer for 5 years.
Yep.
Right? Like you built this gaming machine, and maybe you have it for 5 or 6 years or 7 years. You just upgrade components. You upgrade your video card. Your RAM is 32 gigs of RAM. It's good enough for you.
Right. In other words, at what point do they say no? You can't do this.
Or at what point? At what point did they just say, well, no, just go to the website and just download Windows because we've been giving it for free for the last 5 years?
I don't know. I mean,
it's a weird situation, right? Because you can't really expect people to still have their Windows 7 keys laying around 8 years from now.
No, of course not. But there needs to be some way to obsolete old hardware from it's supported on Windows perspective, right? So and we've seen this in the past, but of course we always associate the change with some version of Windows. Like, and I'm going to get this wrong. This is off the top of my head, but say Windows 8.1 and or Windows 10. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
Certain Intel and actually certain AMD chipsets as well, for whatever reason, just wouldn't work. They literally built something into the code where it would sense the chipset and it just said, no, we're not going to do this upgrade. And so you had these people that were able to install Windows 8.0 and then they went to install 8.1, let's say, or Windows 10. 8.1 didn't work, and they're like, well, maybe Windows 10, they'll figure it out. It's like, nope. And there's something about it. It's not. It doesn't seem like a big deal. It's like a minor form of chipset virtualization or some security thing or whatever it is. It's the chip has the performance. It would work fine, and for whatever reason, they're not doing it. And that kind of stuff's going to come up all the time. So how do you handle this? Like when we're on Windows 10, 17.11 or something, or 18.11 or whatever the version is, at some point they're going to have to say something like, if you are using an Intel 4th generation or older processor,
sorry,
you're not going to be able to upgrade to this version. You're stuck on 15, 16 or whatever the previous version was. I'm sorry,
that's
16,
what Apple
11,
does, right? Apple does that.
Yeah, I just don't know how you keep track of it.
Yeah, because there's so much hardware in there on the Microsoft side, on the Windows side.
It's hard to understand. It's hard to explain this to a normal person. Like in the old days, you could have said something like, well, that's Microsoft. You come up with a new Windows version, they have to come up with some artificial reason for you to upgrade. So they're not going to let you do it. And now you got to buy new hardware. And it's like, oh yeah, Microsoft. But there are real reasons for this, right? So it's just hard when it's all Windows 10. I think people have a hard time understanding why stuff doesn't work.
Yeah,
it's
because
like,
it's the same version. So why shouldn't it? I think
even though it really
it's more
is
of a conditioning problem. On the Apple side, you're kind of conditioned. A lot of Apple users are conditioned to buy a new laptop every couple of years. So I don't think there are too many people still using their original, MacBooks from 2000 and
like a PowerBook.
No, not the Power, but when it went over the end, when that initial Intel move happened, I can't imagine there are people doing that from Tiger.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. My former babysitter just came over here with her ancient white MacBook. Well, I guess it would have been an Intel MacBook. Still pretty old. I don't know. Anyway, this is a problem for a future day, but it is something they're going to have to wrestle with. And I think what's going to happen over time is they're going to realize this version number thing maybe wasn't the greatest idea because it just makes it hard to what's the difference with the freaking version? It's just Windows.
It's just Windows. Yeah.
But it gives you a dividing line where you can say, okay, so Windows 12, sorry, it's not going to work 4th gen Intel. I'm just making this up.
I think giving the version numbers and not giving the version, I get it. It's all Windows, but there will be, it'll be really interesting when they change the look of Windows again, like a significant change where people will it'll be noticeable to most people that are looking at the same, be like, oh yeah, this is something new. What do you call it then? The new Windows? For marketing reasons, like how are you going to if it's just Windows and it's all the same crap, I'm not going to, you're going to need to distinguish what it is and it's new. So I'm curious on how Microsoft is going to play it because this isn't something that they've always done. Apple does it by naming them by these stupid, either a cat or a place.
Sure. And but at least you always have this understanding of what the newest thing is. And on the Mac, I mean, as much as I don't like Mac OS, one of the things that's actually a couple of things that are really nice there. I just blew away the MacBook Air that I use, and they offer a cloud-based restore function.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's really good. And it works from like a cold stop, like it's from the BIOS or whatever. Neat.
It downloads it from the server. It just installs. It doesn't care what kind of hard drive, what happened. It just does a clean install of what it was.
What kind of computer you have. It's nice. So the only downside to it is this computer, when I bought it, came with Mavericks, which I believe is 2 versions out of date.
And then you got to go and download the new one. Yeah.
Yeah, but the nice thing to that is you only have to download the new one. You don't buy you don't download one and then install that and then download the next one. Like you just upgrade to the very latest version.
And you also don't have service packs to do. And updates.
No, but you do. But they do annual releases pretty much. So anyway, the point here is simply that there's some pros and cons to it. But Mac OS 10 is free. Because they have a limited range of hardware, they can say, here is the list of computers on which this will work. And so at some point, my 2014 or whatever year it is, MacBook Air will no longer be supported on some latest version of the OS. Like it may not be next year, It may not be the year after that, but it will most certainly be the year after that.
You think
You
so?
know, whenever it happens.
What? You're 2014?
Yeah, like I think 5 years or something. It
Well,
will
I'll
be,
tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. A 2009, because I have a 2009 white MacBook laying around here. It is still
Yep.
supported to the latest version.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's 7 years. But,
Yeah,
but
7
whatever.
years.
I'm just saying it
Yeah,
doesn't matter what the
eventually,
system is.
yeah.
At some point. But see, there it's easy on the Mac because they only make so many computers.
Yeah.
So, and they don't really update them all that often. And so you can make a list on a site that's easy to read. Like this is the, and this will be the story. Like at WWDC 2019 or something, Apple will say, here's Mac OS, 10 version 20,000, whatever it is. And people will look at the compatibility list and they'll be like, oh, look, this is the big, this 2014 MacBook Air was a big deal back in the day and it finally got axed,
Yeah.
But it's easy to talk about. Microsoft doesn't have that. They're going to have to address it.
Microsoft has a lot of issues to address.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
I don't know. I don't know what the right way to do it is, but if you have not updated to Windows 10 and you don't care to update and you're really annoyed by that little pop-up that comes up telling you to update, guess what? It's going to go away.
That's right. Actually, right. So for all the talking and all the complaining, that's maybe the central and most important point.
And you guys have, and I've been public about all the issues that I've had with updates, but I've also been public about how it's been easy breezy on other machines. If you do not need Windows 7 for something extremely specific, I highly, highly recommend you get Windows 10. It is a much better operating system.
I wonder if I ran Windows 7 on my NUC, if it would work better.
How about XP? You want to go to XP?
No.
Just put XP on there. 64-bit XP also.
Yeah, I'm gonna manage my music collection with Windows Media Player.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Oh, the days. Just put Winamp on there and call it a day. You don't need to listen to anything else. Is there anything? We're at the 300 million mark, obviously, but have they given a number for the end of the year yet? What they're hoping?
No. I mean, the only prediction they've ever made is that they will hit 1 billion within 2 to 3 years, which gives them a lot of wiggle room.
1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, they have a lot of units to make up for here, right? So, I think we had kind of done this math when it first happened. If the PC market retains the 300 million machines a year level, that's 3 years plus some upgrades.
But I can't imagine them doing that because it's 300 million with free upgrades. Those people have upgraded already. So how many?
That's the thing people are starting to wonder about. So what is it? It's May. So we're about 2 months away from 1 year. If we extrapolate based on the amount of units, that works out to month. It's something like 23.5, 24 million. So let's just give them 50. So after 1 year, it will be 350 million-ish, right?
Yeah.
That includes, by the way, 20 million Xbox Ones. It includes X number of Windows phones. There's going to be some HoloLens numbers in there, very small. Some Surface Hub numbers in there, very small.
Some tablets.
Some IoT, Raspberry Pi type stuff, very small. So
it's a stretch.
The vast majority of those are computers. I mean, 350 after 1 year, it's actually not great, right? I mean, it's possible that the reason we're seeing them being kind of hardline on this shift away from the free upgrade is they're hoping on a PC market resurgence.
I mean, 350 in a declining PC market, okay, that's not bad. If the PC market was booming, I mean, you're right. If there's some sort of renaissance with people going and buying new computers,
yes. Right. It's
if we have another netbook
this week on the Game
fiasco
of
happen,
Thrones.
yeah.
You
know what, Microsoft, $129 netbook with Windows 10. Yeah, you know what, you might get a nice little boom there, but that's not happening.
This is a problem. I mean, if they can figure out some system where Windows 10 starts to make sense on tablets and phones, that would really help because those markets are big, especially phones. But
I don't think, you know what, though? It's not even Microsoft's issue. This is the PC manufacturer's problem where they have to... I mean, Microsoft by proxy is getting screwed here because less activations, less money, people aren't using PCs, but Microsoft is not a PC manufacturer. I mean, with the Surface, yes, but it's a very specific device. It's the Dells and the HPs and the Asuses that are really in trouble here with the decline in the market because they're going to have to shift. I mean, there has to be something that happens where it changes the momentum.
The thing is, I just don't see us re-attaining levels of sales that we had before. So the question is going to be, at some point, the PC market has to kind of flatline and recover even a little bit.
It is interesting that Microsoft saw this happening and they tried to fix the problem before the PC industry.
Yeah.
With Windows Phone. I mean, that was their answer to keeping.
And Windows RT was part of
Windows RT keeping
an attempt to get ahead of this a little bit. Yes. I mean, look, the smartphone market is 5 times as big annually. 5 times. It's probably over 5, really, but let's say 5 times. In fact, it is over 5, but 5 or 6 times the size of the PC market now, right? If everything stays the way it is, they're not going to hit 1 billion units.
Did we talk about Apple's market share in the desktop and laptop market? How their market share has grown? Did we discuss that?
Say this again.
Apple's market share in like the PC market has gone up.
Oh yeah, to 10%.
To 10%. Why?
I don't know. Why?
Yeah.
Because they also lost big in the most recent quarter, where their sales of Macs fell pretty dramatically compared to the previous year, which doesn't usually happen. They've been making quiet, small ticks upward for many years now. For a while, it seemed like they were stuck around the 7 to 8% range, and in the last quarter, that jumped from, let's say, 8% to, I think it was 9.57%, something like that. A really big jump. And so, why did that happen? It was because the PC market fell even harder.
So when the overall market is getting smaller, your numbers are increasing because you're not shifting.
Well, you still fell, but you just didn't fall as hard. So thus, you still control more of the market. It's kind of strange, right? Yeah. This is not installed base, right? This is sales. So it's unit sales. That's what, market share is, unit sales. The other abnormality, by the way, that's semi-related to this, I had to, in fact, it might be entertaining for you to kind of do the math on this one yourself, because it's so terrible. I hate even saying it.
Let's do that.
Net market share, as their name suggests, measures not market share, but usage share, right? Because what they're looking at is devices hitting websites in this case. And that's how they determine it's actually usage share, like usage of actual devices out in the world. Market share, again, is sales. So anyway, I think the latest figure on Windows Phone was somewhere in the 1.6% market share region. And someone noticed on that market share for, I think it was March or April, they were at 4%. And does this mean that they've seen a big, has there been a big change?
Yeah.
Like, are things improving for Windows Phone? And sadly, the answer is no. And the reason is, well, because they're not measuring sales, right? We know the figures on how many smartphones were sold in the first quarter of 2016. You can look this up. We know how many Lumias that Microsoft sold. You can look this up. I think the figure was 2.3 million. So let me see if I can. Just look this.
Let's go 2.3 million. Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, what percent of, let's see, the figure from IDC for market share in the first quarter was 335 million units.
Okay.
So what percentage of 335 million is 2.3 million? So the way you get to it is to divide 2.3, divide that by 335. And then that number that you get, which has a 0 behind a decimal point, that's Windows Phone's market share.
2.3 divided by what, 350?
335.
I did 350. Hold on. 2.3 divided by... No, that's a 1. That's not divide. I hate this thing. 2.3 divided... Jeez.
By 335.
How long will it take Andrew to 335? That is 0.0068.
Yeah. So it's 0.00, let's say 7.
0.007, yeah. Less than 1%.
Yeah. That's what Windows Phone's market share really is. It's not 4%. It hasn't gone up. In fact, it's gone down big time. But of course, that kind of makes sense, right? A year ago, when Microsoft had sold 8.3 million Lumias, the smartphone market was flat. So they sold about a quarter as many units. So it makes sense that their market share would have gone down.
Wow. Even
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
I I don't even know what, like, I have mine right here. I just did my updates today. Took about 2 hours, but I did my updates.
Yeah.
Which is always fun. The update game on this phone is really fun because it doesn't end. You know, you imagine it's going to be a quick game you're playing, but no, one of those long ones. Um, do we like with the Intel news? I don't think we didn't discuss the Intel news actually. We didn't do a show last week. The Intel news that they're killing the mobile lineup
Yeah.
for Atom. How does that
Right.
impact Microsoft? How does that impact Windows Phone? I mean, listen, they never said the Surface Phone was going to have Intel. That was all speculation online.
They never said there was such a thing as a
They
Surface
never even
Phone.
said there's a
So,
exactly. They never said that. But
although there is. So
yeah, okay,
to be clear. Yeah. So here's, I mean, what I can tell you is a fact is that Microsoft is, or at least was, working on one or more phones um, that are being made by a team of people that were previously the Surface team, right? And that it makes sense for such a product, if it bears some sort of technical DNA of Surface, to perhaps be branded with the term Surface something.
yeah,
We'll see. But once we leave that little bit of information is fact, and then we have to get into speculation because we can kind of look at the way things are going and we can kind of make educated guesses and so forth. And so we know what Microsoft is doing with Continuum. We know that current phones are ARM-based, and so they can't run x86 apps natively, meaning that a Windows phone can't hold or run, like a Win32 app, like Chrome or iTunes
Yeah.
or Photoshop, whatever. But it's not hard to imagine. What if that computer was an x86 phone? And when you docked it, maybe then you could run those desktop apps. I mean, that's kind of interesting. This is,
Yeah.
again, it's purely speculation. If you think back to when, God, it seems like it was so long ago, but a couple of months ago, HP announced that Windows Phone that's coming out this summer, the Elite X3. And I asked them some very pointed questions like, why? Well, first of all, why are you going with the Windows Phone? It's a failure. To which they answered,
Why?
obviously, yeah, well, I mean, just let's be plainly spoken here. Windows Phone was the last choice. They went with Android first. They were surprised to discover that Google would not work with them to improve Android with the security and management capabilities that they needed for the enterprise. They went to Apple knowing that Apple would tell them to, take a leap, which they did. And then like, okay, well, Microsoft, at least Microsoft understands the enterprise and our needs and blah, blah, blah. We can get this, we have remote desktop solutions that can kind of get the job done. Okay, cute. But I said, but why then wouldn't you go with x86? Like, I mean, an Intel-based Windows Phone would be amazing, conceivably, right?
yeah.
Especially for these Continuum scenarios. And he told me, and this is the guy who runs this part of HP, runs the phone, the phone hardware stuff. He said at the time that Intel was years away from delivering a chipset that would work on a smartphone.
That is not good.
Right. And so
Yeah.
when you think about it, there's two things going on here with a Continuum phone. I mean, one is it has to be a phone. And that's where Windows Phone falls apart, regardless of what platform it's running on, right? Like switching to Intel wouldn't solve the app problem. Like there are no good apps on Windows Phone. So that doesn't solve that problem. It solves the PC part of the problem. Like it's a PC when it's docked. Like that solves the problem big time. So obviously when Intel kind of comes out last week and says, you know what, our mobile stuff is failing, we're not going to do this anymore. And they actually canceled the future Atom chipsets that would have gone into phones.
Well,
like they're not going to make them.
their actual press release says that they need to allocate resources to their 5G initiative and development.
Yeah. So allow me to translate that into English.
Please.
Because what they are really saying is what Microsoft is saying about mobile, which is we've lost this generation. We are never going to be competitive. So we're going to stop working on it and stop wasting money on it. And we're going to look forward to the next big thing, right? So the next big thing for Microsoft is nebulous because we don't know what the next big thing in mobile is. Like maybe it's some kind of wearable platform. Maybe it's IoT. Microsoft is trying to figure that out.
I mean, it seems like IoT will be a major player over the next couple of years, but that we're not talking like a consumer line of stuff. We are, but Microsoft will just be the underlining power behind it.
Sure. But for Intel, actually, I'm not saying they're going to be successful, but in fact, I'm going to bet that they're not going to be successful. But the path forward is clear because the next generation of mobile from a hardware maker's, from a chipset maker's perspective, right, ARM or Intel, is clearly 5G networking.
Yeah.
System on a chip designs where everything's on the single board, super efficient, really good with battery power, super high performance. And so they're going to plug ahead and just work on the next thing. They're literally saying we're not going to succeed with this generation of hardware. So they're looking to the next gen. And whatever they call that thing, obviously ARM is working on it as well, on their own version of that. ARM won out because over time, as we went from 2G to 3G to 4G and LTE, these things got really efficient and were still really powerful.
Yeah.
And they just worked. I mean, it's just they were the right combination of hardware, device types and chips and things for that market. Intel just never got it.
I don't know. I mean, Intel's not the mobile space is interesting. How they lost so much in that, and they just couldn't do it. Would they want to get into ARM again? I mean, is this something that they would want to consider doing?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. Listen, Intel. The only reason why Intel's winning in the PC world, with their chipset, is because they bought that company that invented the dual core chips, and from Israel, right. And they're still using that same technology. I mean, they've made it better, obviously, over the years, but they were getting their asses handed to them by AMD every single chip.
Yeah, and that's not the only example of this. The thing you're describing is at the time, Intel had their own mobile versions of chips, like the Pentium M and the Celeron M, I think was a chip, but they had and they were terrible. And this, by the way, this is one of the things that killed those first gen tablet PCs. Intel also followed AMD to x64 computing, right? They were going with this Titanium thing, which never would have flown on a desktop PC, let alone a mobile PC.
Yeah,
that thing was a complete waste of time, and not to mention several years. And so Intel, again, it's funny. They're a company that, just like Microsoft, saw great success from the PC market, still sees some success in the PC market, has had trouble going into these mobile markets. They have become a follower, not a leader, even though they still, obviously when it comes to chipsets for this kind of a thing, they sell more than anyone else. But when you look at the chipsets across all the mobile devices, just as when you look at OSs or whatever across all the mobile devices, Intel, like Microsoft, is now kind of an also-ran.
It's a sticky situation for everybody, because if Intel's doing bad, it's going to be bad for everybody else. When it comes to mobile.
Everyone else in the PC market.
In the PC market.
Remember, the mobile market has thundered forward. I mean, this is the thing. Like, we can feel bad for Microsoft. We can feel bad for Intel. We can pine for the past that we know so well that we wish things had never changed. But the truth is, just smartphones alone outsell PCs by 5 to 6, by a factor of 5 to 6. And when you add in tablets, which don't outsell PCs but are close to PCs in volume, these mobile devices, smartphones plus tablets, outsell PCs by 6 to 7 times. So you could just make an argument that this is Darwin in action. Things change. The fish walked on water, and now he's flying. So, the dinosaur is not looking so hot anymore.
Did you read the AMD benchmarks for their new chipsets, their desktop chipsets?
No.
You know what? They may be giving Intel a run for their money, because they're starting to do hyper-threading now.
Okay,
and they're performing
years later, but
I mean, they're about 10 years late. But the thing about Intel, if they lose momentum in that, I don't know how good it's going to be. I don't know.
Yep.
If AMD could catch up to you, that's not a good sign, because that company was nearly dead.
Well, I mean, Microsoft is under fire from multiple directions, right? It kind of makes sense that Intel might be as well. Microsoft is perhaps a little too focused on the Apple stuff, but in the PC space, Apple faces the same problems as Microsoft
Everybody,
and
yeah.
as Intel. I mean, they don't, they're not magic. They're still working with these Intel chips.
Yep. Listen,
You will.
Intel,
Okay.
but the thing about Apple was that they saw the light with mobile because they had no other options. They had to.
Well, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Right, of course. Yeah. So in other words, if I don't know really understand the history of ARM all that well. I know it's a consortium that makes these designs that they then license to others, and other companies can make their own versions of these things. Apple, for example, is an ARM licensee, even though they now make their own chips because they bought the company that made them. But let's say you're ARM and it's 10, 15 years ago, and you're like, well, we're going to compete with Intel head to head in the PC market, right?
Yeah.
That's a recipe for failure. So when you can't do that, you do other things. And as it turns out, ARM made the right bets. Maybe they targeted the right markets. Whatever they did, they were the right place, right time. And it's not because Intel or Microsoft or whoever we're talking about is full of stupid people. It's because same thing as Microsoft. You've made a really good business. You've made billions and billions of dollars, billions of profits. Things are going gangbusters. You see the world through that lens. It's how could you not? How could you not? How could you change?
How much of a threat? Hellcat actually in our chums brings up something interesting, or Raleigh Rob. I can't see which one. Sorry, guys. I just see two names, and
it's
because
his eye is seizing up. He can only see out of the left side of his head.
I'm like this at this point. My entire slide slows up. Guys,
this is going to be on the saddest ever episode of What the Tech.
You're
Andrew
frozen with a sad face,
a slow motion seizure or whatever you call it.
They say how much and how much of a viable threat is Windows on ARM to Intel at this point? I mean, is that still a possibility that Windows on ARM will become a major player in desktops?
That's interesting. I mean, Windows on ARM, as you call it, is really Windows 10 Mobile these days,
Windows
right?
10 Mobile, yeah.
And even though it's fine. It's fine to call it that. It's in fact, it's useful to call it that. I don't know. Windows 10 Mobile, because it's associated almost 100% today with Windows Phone, has that kind of stink of death about it. To Microsoft's credit, they keep plugging away. They keep improving it. I feel like it's really immature, and it's not quite there yet. But I don't know that it's. I mean, obviously, they're not designing it to threaten Intel, right? Yeah. But if they could somehow realize that dream from Windows RT with this system, which they could. A future of simpler computing devices. I mean, that continuum thing could work with small tablets. It's possible. I mean, anything's possible. I don't know. There's just no evidence.
Yeah, I mean, ARM is way more of a threat than AMD is at this point. Really, in reality,
to Intel. Absolutely.
To Intel, yeah, to Intel.
Yep.
All right, guys, listen, if you're watching live, stay tuned. We're going to do our bonus show here. I have a couple topics. I want to talk about drones and my hatred towards them recently.
Okay.
I'm having a major problem with drones in my neighborhood.
Okay.
I'm at the point that I'm going to become that old guy that's shooting them out of the sky.
Sure. I actually want to be that guy. I'd like to shoot drones out of the sky.
I'm at that point. Seriously. Like, it's gotten nuts. But I'm going to talk about that. If you want to listen to the post show and you listen to the podcast, you can do so by going to patreon.com/whatthetech. You can fund us there and get access to all our post shows, all our bonus shows that we do. I want to just talk about that. Also, if you want to support the network, you could do so by using our Amazon link. That's gfq.co/Amazon. Bookmark it. And whenever you buy something, we get a tiny little credit from it. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarin. Paul, you can follow Paul. Paul, do you think you're going to be in? Are you going to be a static shop for Windows Weekly tomorrow?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to figure something out. There's no way I can reinstall this computer this week because I have just a lot of stuff going on. But I don't know. Maybe knowing this has happened now, I'll get my Surface out or something and just do that for the show. I don't know.
I like that I'm the test dummy.
The beta test.
I'm the beta tester for Paul's podcasting.
I installed those drivers and I thought, things went south when I did this last time. And I actually did sort of think as I did it, well, if this doesn't work, I can always, I can just roll them back. And then like the computer seems fine, so I used it over the weekend. I don't remember exactly when I did this. It was fine the whole time. It was fine. I was scanning stuff. So I thought, well, maybe I was mistaken. Maybe it's fine. Nope. So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to build another computer anyway, so maybe I'm just fooling myself using this.
Here's a cliffhanger. If you want to find out if Paul's problems have gone away and he's fixed it, watch Windows Weekly tomorrow at 2 p.m. East on the Twit Network.
Yep. Well, no, actually, that won't solve the problem because I'm probably going to have to use a different computer.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get an update then. People will know.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, guys. That's it for this week. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.